Yeah.
Kate?
President Trump is not happy with Russian President Vladimir Putin, telling NBC News in a new interview this: "I was very angry, pissed off when Putin started getting into Zelensky's credibility because that's not going in the right location." Donald Trump told NBC's Kristen Welker. And because of that, the president is now apparently threatening to retaliate against Putin in this way. He says, if Russia and I are unable to make a deal on stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine, and if I think it was Russia's fault, which it might not be, but if I think it was Russia's fault, I'm going to put secondary tariffs on oil, on all oil coming out of Russia. So what now? Joining us right now is a former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, Admiral James Stavridis. He's a partner at the Carlyle Group and serves on the board or advises or as an advisor for a handful of defense-related companies. He is also the author of the newly released book, The Admiral's Bookshelf. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. So these are some of, I would say, Donald Trump's strongest words against Russia as we've been watching these negotiations kind of take place. What do you think of this?
Well, I find myself in agreement with President Trump. I'm pissed off at Vladimir Putin, too. So are 40 million Ukrainians, and so is any sensible person. We had to be angry with Putin because he invaded Ukraine. So I'm happy to hear the President of the United States express real frustration. But, Kate, will this go on? Is this performative at some level? Does it mean that sotto voce, off stage, Steve Witkoff is saying to Putin, you got to get to the table, or is this just a performance for the media? We don't know yet. I certainly hope there's sincere anger on the part of the President of the United States, because right now Putin is playing rope-a-dope with him and not moving forward on a ceasefire.
Because it does, and you pose the exact kind of state of play, which is the question, which is how real is this when you hear the president say this? Because do you even think the threat of sanctions or secondary tariffs is enough to bring Putin to the table on this?
I think it will influence Putin's decision making. It's probably necessary, but not quite sufficient to get him to the table. And Kate, worth pointing out two different things. Secondary tariffs would be much less of a hammer than secondary sanctions. Secondary sanctions would mean you do business with Russia, you can't do business with the United States. Secondary tariffs mean you do business with Putin, we're going to tax your goods coming here. Note that the president talked about secondary tariffs. I hope he ratchets that up to secondary sanctions. That would get Putin's attention, believe me.
We also know that one thing that President Trump is keenly focused on is getting this rare earth minerals deal in place with Ukraine. And he talked to reporters about this last night. Let me play this for you.
And I think Zelensky, by the way, I see he's trying to back out of the rare earth deal. And if he does that, he's got some problems, big problems. We made a deal with rare earth, and now he's saying, well, you know, I want to renegotiate the deal. He wants to be a member of NATO. Well, he was never going to be a member of NATO. He understands that. So if he's looking to renegotiate the deal, he's got big problems.
So what the president might be referencing is Zelensky on Friday did kind of emphasize in a press conference Ukraine's not going to accept a deal that would jeopardize its accession to the European Union, saying that that cannot be accepted. What do you think of this? I mean, a negotiating position on the part of Ukraine, or really, I guess maybe more broadly, what do you think is or needs to be the priority for Ukraine in these very challenging talks now?
I think the idea of pushing for an immediate entrance to NATO on the part of Ukraine is simply a negotiating position. And you always start a negotiation with a maximalist position, and then you move toward reality in the center. I think that's what we'll see the Ukrainians do here. A near-term membership in NATO, very unlikely. Over time, not impossible. But a closer entrance into the European Union, that would be something I would push for very hard from the perspective of President Zelensky. Bottom line, the Ukrainians would be wise to get this mineral deal done. It's clearly something very important to President Trump. and aid to Ukraine is clearly very important to the Ukrainians. Let's construct a win-win outcome here. I think we can do that.
Admiral, it's good to see you. Thank you so much.